Dylan Wynn going to join us now.
Thanks.
No problem.
I should have turned that volume down. Sorry about that. How you doing?
Good, good.
I'm John, by the way. Nice to meet you. We never met before.
Nice to meet you.
Kind of on the fly. Yeah, we're good. We're good. We're ready to go. We were just going to hear perhaps from Coach Riley, but I saw you guys jogging across the field and said, nope, we're going to do it right now.
Well, Dylan is willing. He's got a class, but he's got a few minutes. He's doing double duty here. He's going to be an exclusive guest on Talking Beavers later this week. Teron Ward will actually be on set tonight. But Dylan said, yeah, I'll come over and do a little time on the radio, too. We appreciate it, Dylan. Let me just ask you something that Trent Bray, who sat in the same chair yesterday, said as a linebacker, which he was a great one here. He said, you love to play teams like Stanford, even though you respect the heck out of them, just to know that there's going to be some physicality and power. I mean, tell us your thoughts as a very talented, aggressive, tenacious defensive end, how excited you are about the challenge Saturday.
I love playing Stanford. It's my favorite week every year, almost. I mean, besides Civil War, of course. But Stanford, they bring everything, and you have to respect them. They're the best O-line that we go against the entire year, and they're definitely one of the best O-lines in the nation. And it's not just their size, it's not just their power, it's their coachability and their execution on their plays. It's something to almost marvel at. It's great football, and being able to play against something like that and executing what we do, it's an opportunity to really play the best, and that's why I look forward to it.
Are they a very disciplined team, and that guys they're just not going to make the mistakes and give you that open window?
Absolutely. Their O-line coach is definitely one of the best in the nation, and you can tell how those guys are taught to play and their mentality that they bring to the field, and it's definitely something that's going to be fun. It's going to be a war out there, and we're looking forward to it.
Dylan, one of the things that we saw just watching the game on the network telecast Saturday afternoon down at the hotel in Oakland, it was amazing to me what they did with Gaffney in the fourth quarter and just buried UCLA. But give it to Gaffney, give it to Gaffney, give it to Gaffney. I think he had 71 yards alone in the fourth quarter. They rode him and essentially put that thing away. Is there a wearing down factor that you have to be aware of, and you have to keep guys fresh? I mean, how do you plan on dealing? If they want to have that same approach with you, what do you guys have to do to counter it?
Definitely when teams come into trying to wear us down and stuff, I mean, we take the mentality, our conditioning program here is top notch and our lifting program here is top notch, and we've always had a defensive line, at least at the defensive front, we've always been able to cycle a good 8 people in and out, and fatigue is not normally a problem for us. I mean, we're the top of the shape that we've been in all year. I mean, even compared to the last few years that Scott and I have been here, we're in the best shape we've been in, I mean, our whole time at Oregon State. And when it comes down to it, they're going to be tired too. They're going to be just as tired as us, and the O-line doesn't really cycle out as much as the D-line does, so there's no excuse for us to be tired.
Dylan, what do they like to do from your standpoint in this? Let me get specific. Do you see a lot of pulling? Do you see a lot of traps? Is there some trick stuff, not trickery, but just a lot of pulling, a lot of trapping going on with their line, or is it straightforward man-on-man and that's their power game?
They do pull quite a bit. They run a lot of powers and a lot of leads. I mean, they do everything. They do all the good old-fashioned power football that, I mean, I know and love so much. Definitely the type of football I miss. But they're able to do that. They're mobile guys, and they're big mobile guys that execute their techniques perfectly. And it's a sight to see, and it's a lot of fun to play against. What
you will see this week, what would be this week's mantra from a coach? Would it be stay low? Would it be contain? What would be the thing that is most important as you prepare for this offense?
Ours is being aggressive and being correct, being technically sound, execution.
Dylan Wynn, our guest. Aggressive, yes, and yet, as we were talking about on the TV side a minute ago, Dylan, Kevin Hogan is a guy that can hurt you and take advantage sometimes, right, of maybe being overly aggressive.
Absolutely. He has the ability to extend plays with his feet, and being able to having that extra tool that they have. I mean, you have to game plan to it, and I mean, it's little notches here and there, but we can't let that control our game, and we can't let that limit our rush or anything like that.
Got to ask you how much fun you had this past Saturday? I know it's all on to Stanford now, but watching you and Scott early in that game in particular and throughout, how much fun were you guys having in Berkeley Saturday night?
It was a lot of fun. It was, for me personally, it was fun to be able to go home and put up a good game like that. And then Scott and I off the edge, Cal had a bunch of reads that we were able to pick up on and just really adapt during the game and being able to understand what they're trying to do and execute our defense to stop what they're trying to do.
Does the magnitude of a game matter to you? Do you get nervous when there's more riding on the line?
I get nervous for every game. Every single game, everything's always riding on the line. I mean, you could look at any game we have on our schedule, and it's a must-win. It's always a must-win, and that's how we live in the Coach Riley preaches that we live in a week-to-week bubble, and, I mean, everyone's heard that, but you really don't understand it until you're actually in it. And really, no idea what's next week. It's all about Stanford, what I got to do tonight at 6. I got film and lift and the whole bit. And, I mean, once we get to tomorrow, we get to tomorrow. And it's really interesting. I mean, people say it all the time, but you really can't. It's one of those things you can't really understand until you're actually in it.
Do you ever worry about, does it matter to you if you're home or away?
Not really, no. I mean, it's nice to be home. And, I mean, just as a football technical approach to it. I mean, it's great to have that noise on the defense and for the offense to be able to have the clarity of communication. Besides that aspect, when it comes down to it, it doesn't really matter where we play. It's 100 yards and then it's 2 goalposts, and we're going to come out with that W. So
you have to find, when you're on the road sometimes and everybody's against you, or there's small crowds and nobody, people are uninterested or whatever, you got to stay motivated and keep your own energy level. I understand that. But, Dylan, I've seen you run through the helmet with a chainsaw. I see you at times on third down. You're asking Beaver Nation to get into it. So it's not lost on you that there is a crowd. And when you're home, it seems like you feed off that a lot.
Absolutely not. You can tell when the crowd's going, especially at Research Stadium when things get rolling. I mean, their offense feels it, our defense feels it. I mean, it definitely feeds into it, and it is a factor. It definitely is a factor.
Do you have personal matchups? Do you know the guys that you're going in the league across the line from you? And I'm not suggesting scores to settle, but idiosyncrasies and like this week, that kind of thing, or is it just game to game? You're game planning for the same thing?
Well, when we do game plan, obviously we break down the film and we look at who they have and who I'm going to go against on offense. And you break down their tendencies, just like at this level, when it gets this specific and this advanced. Every team really breaks down who they're going against, what their tendencies are, what their weaknesses are, and how best to exploit it. Once you get to the college football level, I mean, anything you do, anything you put on film, the other team's going to see, and they're going to game plan for it.
We'll turn you loose to class after this, Dylan, but you told me, and I wasn't, I certainly know, you went to De La Salle, grew up in the Bay Area. Did both schools there offer you? You said Stanford did. Did Cal also? And did you kind of pick them up? And we're so glad you ended up here, but tell us, if Stanford's offering, that's a tough thing for a lot of young men to turn down, but you did to come here.
Yeah, I didn't have an offer to Cal. I was definitely talking to him. I committed pretty early in my recruitment. I wanted to get it over with. And I don't know, I visited Stanford. That was back when Harbaugh was there, and I had a long conversation with him and his staff, and got to know him and where they said I would fit in and all that. And it absolutely had nothing to do with the staff the campus is beautiful. I almost based my entire recruiting experience off of like a gut feeling. Like you'll not really that you'll know once you've been here. I visited Oregon State 3 times before I actually committed. I had been around Oklahoma State. I've been even down to the Evil Empire, but just visiting everywhere, it was just a feeling I got when I came here, and especially Coach Riley is the most sincere man I've ever met in my life, and Coach Joe is like a father figure as well, and I just could see myself playing for them for the next 4 to 5 years, and that's how I decided.
When you make that decision, and I was talking recently to another coach at Oregon State about certain recruits who make commitments, and then when you have to make the call to the teams, the schools, the coaches that recruited you from other places to say, well, I've made my decision and I'm going to Oregon State. Occasionally you'll hear a coach at the other end of that conversation say, what? How can you do that? You know, did you have any of that at all?
No, not at all.
Names,
no. It was actually quite interesting. Once I committed, I was very specific with all the teams that were recruiting me. I'm like, once I commit, I'm committed, and I'm not going to decommit. I feel like that's puts down on my integrity if I would go back on your word, because the word is all you have. And I called all the schools that I was serious about. I called them and I told them if I was considering them or not. And then once I actually made my decision, before I even went public with it, I called every school that recruited me, and I'm like, thank you so much for recruiting me and giving me the opportunity. But Oregon State, I feel, is the best fit for me, and I just wanted to let you know before I told everyone else that I'm going to Oregon State instead of Oklahoma State was the one I remember calling them, and they're very respectful. They're like, well, congratulations being able to make that decision, and thank you for giving us a call. And I feel like definitely in this business, it's you got to be respectful to everybody. You got to, just like going into a game, you got to take everyone serious, and you got to show them respect by bringing out your best. And football is all about respect, and I feel like that was definitely something that I'm happy my dad really told me to do, was don't burn bridges. Don't ever burn bridges, because you don't know where you're going to end up way down life, you know.
Great outlook, Dylan, and thanks for sharing that sense of your character. We've seen it on the field, and really could feel that it's coming from something that's genuine within you, and we appreciate you sharing that with us. Thanks for coming by and joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
That's Dylan Wynn, who will be dealing with Stanford's power, and I think going to be dealing with it well Saturday night with the rest of his teammates. Homecoming Saturday, 7:30. Tickets still available. Hope to see you out at Reeser for an event Saturday night. Homecoming, the Beavers in Stanford. Danny Langsdorff called it a murderer's row coming up.
It is.
And he's right. 1927, Lou Gehrig and Ruth, and that might have had something to do with Prohibition and all that also, but when I think of Murderer's Row, I think of Ruth and Gehrig.
Well, of course. Is there any other Murderer's Row?
Yeah, there is. I think Murderer's Row was originally like the Al Capone gang or whatever.
I thought it was the Yankee thing.
No, not the Yankees. They applied it, I think. But again, I'm probably wrong, just as I am about one-handed catching.
You are wrong.
We take a break.
I'm not backing down.
Whitfield could have put his second hand up, and he chose not to. That's my problem.
I've never met Dylan Wynn before. I've never had an opportunity to interview him and chat with him. What a great kid. We were just chatting off air here during the break with Dylan Wynn. Our thanks to Dylan for coming by after practice here.
Dylan Wynn, what a great kid.
I was just saying, I've never had a chance to meet him.
How about
I like that kid.
Yeah, I do too. And he's doing even more stuff right now over there with a couple of other reporters.
Defensive line also plays a huge role in this game, and we just talked with Dylan Wynn about not only contain, it's not Hogan can kill you that way, but it's more just holding your ground, really, and not making mistakes and being out of position and creating lanes for the running backs.
It right there.
You love us, Coach. Come on.
This is close enough right here. All right. Is that it?
Can you maybe looking at last year's game tape, and you guys were down 14, Zip got 23 straight points, then it was close to the end. What can you learn from that video?
Well, I think that it was a different year, different teams. So you looked structurally at how they tried to defend you, how they tried to attack, and schematically you can look at some carryover type stuff. And then any personnel that's a carryover, I think that's probably the main stuff you get.
Mike, part of that personnel, the front seven in Stanford's defense, how would you describe?
Oh, they're really good. Their whole team is athletic all over the place. Every special team, defense, offense, they've got a lot of big, good athletes that play everywhere.
You mentioned the special teams. Ty Montgomery, obviously, single-handedly won that game against Washington a couple of weeks ago. How special a player is he?
He is very, very unique. He's really big. He looks like a big running back, but he's a receiver, and he's a great, leads the nation in kickoff returns. So it's a little different. You know, like I said, I just describe him as a unique athlete.
Coach, for 3 weeks now, you've kind of been preparing for some pass-happy offenses. How does this change for your defense this week, kind of more balanced attack?
Well, that's what we have to do. You know, that's our league these days. You're going to see such a variety. I guess it's got to be really good for football and fun for everybody, I would say. But not for defensive coaches. It's a little different thing because we've seen 100 and something passes, spread offenses from sideline to sideline, and now you're going to see a very balanced attack with a quarterback that also does some of that stuff. I mean, he's a really athletic guy, so he can run. They got a great running back. They got a physical line. They've got gifted receivers. You name it.
Mike, does the prospect of taking on a top-ranked team like Stanford right now, does that get the guys juiced at all? Are they a little bit more excited?
Well, this team is excited. You know, you don't have to change to play a big game. I mean, if you have to do that, you're probably not going to be successful. Your opportunity to beat a team like this is through your total summary of the preparation that you've had, and if you can use all that and then play your best game, then you got a shot.
Coach, a couple of coaching legends that passed away this year. Frosty, of course, and now Don James. Talk a little bit about the Don James impact on the conference and in the Northwest.
Well, there's certainly been such a great group of people go through our league and through the coaching profession. And Don was at Washington and impacted the West Coast football in a very big way. I think that winning a national championship and having him playing at that level kind of set a bar at that time for everybody else.
Mike, how has Hogan evolved in the past? Obviously, got a year under his belt.
Yeah.
Same player, or where has he gotten better?
Well, he's same talent, just now experience added to it and more confidence.
Now, for last year, obviously, he showed off that ability to extend plays. That one shovel pass, he was about 6 inches from being down. Are you guys showing that play a little more just to express the importance of wrapping up a guy like that?
Well, I think that the main thing about that play was stay in coverage. If we'd had somebody in coverage, he wouldn't have had anybody to flip it to, and we came out of coverage and got beat. So that's just a great example of disciplined football. By us, how you have to play disciplined football and take care of your responsibility. Don't just do your job.
Coach, is Sean going to be able to stay upright on Saturday?
Oh, sure, yeah.
How are you health-wise, Mike?
I think we're pretty good. Connor's not going to play, and John Braun is nursing that shoulder, and hopefully he'll be back practicing tomorrow. Everybody else appears to be pretty good.
How important is the D-line's performance Saturday, Mike?
Well, it's big. The whole front seven's got to take, plus our safeties. Everybody's got to play part in that run defense. That's just the way it is. Gap responsibilities, good angles to the football, good tackling because the back is big and he's good. So there's a lot of elements that go into being able to play physically. And then if you're in the secondary and you have pass responsibility, you better be sound. You better not bite on the play action. You better pay attention to the releasers down the field and be in good shape on them because that's a big part of their game, and it's a very good part.
Thanks, Mike.
Thank you.
Thanks, Coach.